family that Eartha Drafts worked for was partially broken. They were good people and all. They just had their share of problems, not unlike most families. Well, maybe they had a few more. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, this morning I'm going to tell you a very poignant tale about love. It's a Southern tale. Now back to that family, Eartha Draft's family that she worked for. You see, Mr. Chavis drank. And when he was being good, he was really good. And you knew he was good because he'd get home at 5:30 in the afternoon. But as the minutes and the hours ticked past 5:30, the tension would mount in that household because you knew something was coming. Mrs. Chavis was a perfectionist, like no other. And she would go on about her business, but you could see that the worry and the anger was mounting. As each minute passed, her worry grew more, although she never let on. But anybody with one eye open could see it. She knew that eventually, sometimes between that moment and dawn, a drunken storm was going to come through her home. They had one child. She was 6 years old. Eartha Drafts had worked for this family since that child was 3, since 1961. The little 6-year-old was really tough to warm up to. Eartha tried everything she could. She had seen too many fights for a 6-year-old. She knew something was dreadfully wrong, like only a 6-year-old could. But what is this? Good news is coming in the Chavis family. There's another baby on the way. And when little Margaret, the 6-year-old, turned 7, they were blessed with a new baby. They called her Steffi. Now, Eartha was at the Chavis family every day, Monday through Friday. And little Steffi and her were together. Because soon after she was born, about 8 weeks later, Mrs. Chavis was back at work, little Margaret was back in school, and Mr. Chavis was back up to his shenanigans. So every day, little Steffi and Eartha were home together. And the love that grew between those two people was unbelievable, unbreakable. When Eartha would vacuum, little Steffi would ride on the vacuum cleaner. Because little Steffi never wanted to be in another room. She didn't want to be out of Eartha's sight. When Eartha would bake, she would set up little Steffi's easy bake oven, and she could bake too. When she would iron, Eartha would have her big iron set up, and then she'd set up a little ironing board with this little iron. And she would let Steffi iron all the wash rags. Now don't get me wrong, the Chavises didn't require their wash rags ironed. It's just the only thing that Steffi could iron. And Eartha would tell her what a good job she had done. As time went on, Steffi got older, like we all do, and Eartha got older. When she got to middle school, the Chavises decided Eartha wasn't needed every day. But the Chavises were Eartha's only family. But she found other work. She came 3 times a week, and then 2 times a week, and then 1 time a week once Steffi got to high school. But their love was unbreakable. This was a love almost deeper than Steffi had with her mother. It was amazing. When Steffi turned 18, well, actually right before she turned 18, she went away to college. She was really excited. It was a new experience, It was an opportunity to get away from that family of hers that was still stewing all their stuff. Because Mr. Chavis was still up to his shenanigans, and Miss Chavis was still a perfectionist like you can't imagine. And little Margaret still wasn't that cuddly, and wasn't that great of a big sister. And so Steffi had this great opportunity to go to college. She was the first in her family. And Eartha just prodded her on. She was so excited for her too. They would talk on the phone at night, and Steffi just knew one day, when she was married, that Eartha would live with her. And that her children would know the love of Eartha. So she went away to college. And around Thanksgiving, she came home for Thanksgiving break. And she noticed Eartha wasn't quite herself. But it was the holidays. Who is their selves during the who are their selves during the holidays? She seemed tired. But with all the cooking and all, who isn't tired? She didn't think too much of it. The Tuesday after Thanksgiving, Eartha phoned Mr. and Ms. Chavis and told him that she couldn't breathe. Now what I haven't told you is that Mr. and Ms. Chavis loved Eartha too. They jumped out of bed, raced to her house, picked her up in, Mr. Chavis picked her up in his arms and rushed her to the hospital. They did all this in 7 minutes flat. They called little Steffi from college and said, "You need to come home. Eartha's in the hospital." So she did, and a few days later, Eartha passed away. She stayed in that hospital, Steffi did, day and night with that woman. In that room, except for the times that she went out in the hall to cry. She knew that her dreams of Eartha raising her kids was gone. But she also understood that this was Eartha's time to go to heaven. You see, she had lost 5 babies before Stephanie was born. And it was their turn to have their mother, Eartha. Mr. Toastmaster.